Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we have a special guest from Europe. A type of man, you're going to love his accent. I've just been speaking to him, and he has a lovely accent. Lovely accent is what we say over in London and British and all that European area. So we have London Lighthouse. Thanks so much for being on the air with us. And we want to hear what?
We got to do that one over.
Andrew Lighthouse.
Andrew Lofthouse.
Lofthouse. Shit, man, that's what
this is we got to fix this.
This is what we're always doing. We always fuck up people's names, brother.
You mess up his name. Andrew Lofthouse from Manchester.
There you go. That's how we got the smart guy on here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Welcome, bro.
Awesome. Well, that's part of what we do. We mess it up so someone can look smarter than us. You know what I mean? So tell us, where are you at right now?
I'm based in Manchester, in England.
Okay.
It's the real capital of England.
The real part.
Is that right? Is that what they say?
Yeah, it's the great city on earth.
So people always talk about, it's violence, the stabbing and all stuff. Let's clear that first before we talk about your professional fighting and where you fought all over the world. How dangerous is it out there? Is it just a lot of talk, or what is it? What's going on out there?
It depends where you're from. If you're not from the area, then it's a rough place. But if you're from the area, it's a pretty easy place to live.
And what's not from around the area? How close do you have to live in the vicinity?
I'm guessing like over in the States, you have your nice areas, and then you have like your suburbs. You have your projects. We call them council estates over here. So basically, where there's no job opportunities, the education's low. The estates is where like the criminal activity happens, and there's many, and there's it's getting worse in the UK. The poor get poorer, the rich get richer.
Correct. That's what we're hearing. So when people are out there, is it really like you can't really wear a watch out there? You can't really dress up nice. You can't be flossing. Is that really like that? You got to be always chill, or what? Because a lot of people, we hear a lot of crazy stuff.
In certain parts, yeah. But like for myself, I've like I said, I've traveled the world, so like I'll walk around anywhere. I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. I understand scenarios, so if I see a certain situation I'm not comfortable with, I'll come away from it. But I don't think it's too bad.
It's similar to the way maybe. What do you think? We're on the West Coast, California. So when you hear LA or the Bay Area,
San Francisco, Oakland,
does something come to mind that the media has told you of what it's like living out here?
Yeah, like again, you see you've got big drug problems over there. Same as in the UK, different types of drugs, but it's the same sort of thing. And obviously, you have areas that are the class as no-go areas. But I'm sure, like if you live in the areas, you're wary of the places, but you'll be happy to drive through or go through the places.
Yeah, if you know it, it's not.
So what's from what you've heard of the United States? What are the worst areas out here? What are the worst areas that you hear from the
UK? Probably for my age, I'd probably think of like Detroit and things like that.
And more recently, what have you heard? Like I say, the West Coast in California. What have you heard about California out there?
I think there's just a big drug epidemic out there, isn't there, at the moment?
Correct.
Fair.
Correct.
That's what I see the most of: homelessness, people who just revert into drugs because that's the only option they've got.
Well, see, a lot of people try to say it in our country, our government, like say, "Oh, it's just a homeless problem." No, it's not. It's a drug problem. All these motherfuckers out here that are homeless, it's just drugs. It's a drug problem. And so it's a pandemic, just like anywhere.
Fentanyl's the issue over there at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's our biggest thing that we have going on out here. And then California gives away so much money that people really enjoy being homeless. And the weather's nice. It's not
the
like
weather too. Yeah, it's not like
it's like you're camping.
A lot of room and the weather is
the weather's
more
warm.
forgiving than being in Manchester.
I've seen something recently that they're shipping people. Well, they're giving people free flights over to Hawaii. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah.
They were doing that before. I remember they were doing that before about, they stopped doing it in the pandemic. But before that, it was going on for a while because when I go to Hawaii, I'd meet a bunch of people from all over the United States. And they were like, I just got a free flight. And people were literally living on the streets. It's kind of like, here, we only have 3 cold months here in California, right?
And cold is relative.
And cold is,
it's not that cold.
Not that cold. Like
I'd say one of the biggest problems in the UK is the housing market. So the council have not built houses since the 1970s, I don't think. So you've had a massive increase in immigration, massive increase in the population, but there's not really any infrastructure being built. So just around the corner from my house, I have one way in and one way out of my house, where I live.
Okay.
And they're building 400 houses. Now there's three primary schools on the estate, and they're all full. But they're going to build another 400 houses, and they're not going to build no new doctors, no new schools,
no infrastructure
no new
to handle all this. Yeah,
there's nothing at all. So
400 new houses and nothing to support it.
Nothing at all.
Wow. Well, that's going to be an ever-growing thing. And then where, for the immigration that's coming to your country, where are they coming from? What countries?
Mainly Eastern Europe.
Eastern Europe?
So Romania. In England's like one of the highest wage averages in Europe. So we get a lot of immigration from the Middle East, Eastern Europe, North Africa, things like that.
Gotcha. We got border problems here too, brother. So I wish most of our border problems were Mexicans, but now we got like people from all over the world coming in, and not the best people in the world that are coming in, you know? So, but that happens, right? So talk about you and your traveling. Where have you traveled around the world, and where have you fought around the world?
Well, I fought in Thailand, standard for a Thai boxer. I fought in Thailand. I've been there 8 times. I've been to Uzbekistan.
Okay.
I've been to...
Where's Uzbekistan? That's a city or a country?
It's a country, yeah.
What,
Former Soviet, yeah.
Tashkent.
They're a nuclear power, man.
I sound like one of these girls on Fresh and Fit. Don't know where the countries are at.
But how long? So you were a Thai boxer for a long time first, right? That's how you began your fight career?
11. Yeah.
Age of
11? 2002.
Okay, and then
2005.
at some point you moved to Thailand to fight there, right?
I never moved there. I
just
went over. Yeah, I always went to fight. You see a lot of people who go do training camps there, but I was quite happy with the training. I got back in the UK.
Got it.
So I only ever went to fight.
How many fights did you have in Thailand?
In Thailand, I fought over there 8 times. So I had about 10, 12 fights over there.
10 or 12 fights. All pro fights out there?
No, some is like amateur championships. So I went over to the World Championships quite a few times. First one when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
And I fought a Thai in the amateur championships there. He'd had like 50 pro fights at the time. So
you're mainly a kickboxer for a long time, right?
Yeah.
How many fights?
15 years. I've had around 150 or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
30. I think 35 professional.
And 35 pro fights. And then when was the transition to MMA?
That was in 2016. So what happened, basically, I got bored of Thai boxing.
Okay.
After 150 fights, he was bored now?
Right.
I really liked to fight. Was my escape, so I like to fight.
Yeah.
Thai boxing in the UK is very traditional scoring set. Not so much now, we've won championships and that, but it was very much scoring. It was more of the martial art. So you could land a 3-4 shot combination with hands, and if someone kicked you around the back, then they've won that exchange.
Just a touch scoring, you mean?
Yeah, not so much. They classed it as effect. What was effective?
The effective was what was being scored.
Yeah.
So talk about those 2 changes, because a lot of people don't understand about those 2 different ways of fighting and the points and the systems. Talk about those 2 different styles of pointing and the way they're graded in the fights, the way they're appointed, who wins, who doesn't win, damage versus just touching.
Yeah, so for me, I've always classed it as perception. If something's effective, it's my perception of that. So it's up to the judge to decide what's effective and what's not. If I punch you twice and your head snaps back on both of them, and then you reply with 1 left kick, then how do you win the exchange? And I think that's what a lot of judges over here didn't kind of understand. They try and compare their judging style with like Rajadam and Lumpini over in Thailand. But obviously that was heavily affected by gambling. So you can't really use their scoring criteria in a country that's not gambling. So I kind of got bored of the Thai boxing because I was losing fights when I threw a kick, I wasn't classed as balanced, and they liked a kick that was balanced, that looked balanced. So when I looked off balance, that was my balance because it was just the style I fought.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to fight. I wanted everyone to stand in front of me, have an absolute scrap, elbows each other's faces off, leave with loads of stitches. That's what I enjoyed about fighting. So I just quit fighting, and I got asked to do. My former Thai boxing coach was Michael Bisping's striking coach.
Oh, nice.
So we had like quite a few UFC fighters come and train with us, and I did a photo shoot for Reebok with a guy called Daniel Hot Chocolate Roberts. He's based out in San Diego, I think. He's from the UK, but he's based out in San Diego
Right
or
here.
something.
Okay.
Right near us.
And his manager basically said, "Would you ever fight MMA?" And I was like, "Maybe one day."
Mhm.
And never say never. I'd done a
course.
little bit of jiu-jitsu, and then 2 weeks later, he rang me and said, "I've got you a fight on BAMMA." So it was a BAMMA and Bellator card in Dublin, and he's like, "Would you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" So I did 8 to 10 weeks of MMA training, and then went straight professional.
So that was your first.
Absolutely battered. Yeah, got absolutely battered in front of 4,000 booing Irish fans.
But he didn't finish you,
it.
right? That was a decision.
No.
Yeah.
Decision, yeah.
I was looking at your record, you know, because I've known you before, but I was double checking everything. So 6 pro fights, right? It looks like all your wins, you finish a guy, and your losses are decisions. So you were never finished as a pro, too.
No.
That's a great record. Yeah.
Wow.
You really would be proud of that for sure. So that first fight, but he did smash you. That was your entrance to MMA.
Or controlled you.
Yeah, but well, basically, he knew I was a striker. He, as soon as I landed, I think I landed a right and left hook combination. I posted it not long ago on my Instagram. Like, it didn't take long for me to realize Thai boxing doesn't work in MMA. And I think I hit him with a right hand and a left hook, and he shot straight away. And that was it. Every time I got back up, he'd shoot again. But because I had so minimal experience, I thought at the time MMA was like Thai boxing and jiu-jitsu. I didn't realize you have to be able to wrestle.
Now you can wrestle.
Exactly.
So, and this is Carl Prince is your coach at this point, right?
No, I wasn't with Carl then. I wasn't with Carl. I was I trained at Aspire under Dean Garnett, he was called.
Okay. And this is when you began the MMA transition, right?
Yeah.
And then
so I used to drive from Manchester to Liverpool like 3-4 times a week and work full time as a builder. So like the journey could be like an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. There to drive there.
An hour and a half there, an hour and a half back.
Yeah.
And then you had another job also. And you had another job also.
Yeah, I worked as a full-time builder.
Correct. Yeah, that's kind of normal, right? Everyone that we're starting off as mixed martial arts.
We hear a lot of stories like this.
We also have, when I was fighting also, I was working 60 hours a week, and then the other time was just barely training. So I understand. And mixed martial artists understand that lifestyle. We enjoyed it, right? We don't take it back at all because that was just part of the journey. Right?
Well, there's like a window of time where you can do that, you know?
What do you think is different from that, our generation? I mean, I'm way older than you, but what's the difference between our generation compared to the new generation now?
See, I come from a very traditional Thai boxing background. So my first initial Thai boxing coach passed away a couple of years ago. But he was like the first era of Thai boxers in the UK. So my town, Oldham in Manchester, was the birthplace of Thai boxing in Europe, I think.
Nice.
By Master Woody and Master Sken. They came to Oldham back in the late 70s. There was Woody, Sken, and Master Toddy. But Toddy then came over to Vegas in the 90s, I think.
Okay.
So that was like the birthplace. So I have a very traditional, like, Thai boxing martial arts style. And I think this day and age, I think people just believe too much what's on social media. They think they're entitled to a lot more. They don't have to put the work in. They don't have to earn the stripes. Gradings are. I'm not a big believer in gradings, but you've got to earn your stripes in the gym. You've got to have been through everything. And when I became a coach, I'd like to install that in people. Like, you need to experience everything. You've not made it ever. You're always learning.
Ever.
You need to keep reinventing the wheel. You need to keep going and never think that you've made it to the top. Because once you think you've done enough, or you get in there, or you're better than someone else, then that's when you'll fail. Correct.
Well, see, a lot of us always want to keep going and keep going. But I understand, like you said, social media's kind of messed up a lot of things. How do you think social media has messed up these young fighters as far as them thinking that it's just 1 or 2 or 3 fights and I can be like Conor McGregor? You've had 135 amateur fights and like how many pro fights again? Like 30 or 40?
Like professionally altogether, I've had like 45 fights.
Okay. And look at what you've done to get to the level that you're at. Why do some people, and like I said, why do you train these young men to come out of, I've had 2 amateur fights, now I can go pro? How do you get that out of them? How do you continue training them? because everyone wants the quick results, right? That's like I said, that's what Instagram has done to a lot of these fighters. What do you do to them?
A lot of people used to say I was grumpy, moody,
Uh-huh.
but I'm just real.
Yeah.
I'm not going to set you up to fail. I'm not going to sell you a dream.
Right.
It's easy to sell you a dream, sell anyone a dream. But the harsh reality is that there's only a very small percentage of people who are actually going to make money doing this.
Correct.
A very small percentage. I've never made any money. But would I change it? No. I'm happy with what I've done. But a lot of them think like they've had 3-4 amateur fights, they're going to turn professional and make hundreds of thousands.
Delusional.
And in reality, you're going to have 10 fights and still be broke. And in fact, you probably have 20 fights and still be broke. You'll make the UFC, still be broke. Because that's just the harsh reality of the game.
Correct.
Yeah, so many factors have to come together for you to make anything. Right.
Yeah. I fought, even in my professional MMA fights, I think I only got paid for 4 of them. So I had 6. So there's 2 or 3 I didn't get paid for.
Okay.
And my Thai fights, I fought 3 times in one night once in an 8-man tournament. I got paid £400. I did 7 rounds of Thai boxing.
Let's talk about that. So 3 times. This is Thai boxing.
Yeah.
3 times in one night. How'd it go? Tell us what I don't think, because that's not very common in the West. You know, I don't think the commission would even.
It wasn't in the 90s.
Yeah, but this is like underground in a basement somewhere you're talking about, you know? Yeah, the commission doesn't allow this anymore. Right?
So I think, when was it? 2000 and going back now, 10 years ago, I think it was 2013. I'd left my first gym. I'd decided it was time for me to move on to another gym, to like go on to a different scene and get more exposure. And I took a short notice. Someone pulled out the 8-man tournament, and my coach was like, "Do you fancy doing it?" So I said, "Yeah." I think it was like 2 weeks' notice. And then, yeah, it was an 8-man tournament. The winner got £10,000. But what they don't tell you until the day you're at the weigh-in and that is, it's not 10,000. Like, second place gets £500, and it's like, wow. So you don't actually get paid that much. The first fight I had was, I'd actually fought the guy before. We'd fought a couple of years previously.
Okay.
I'd beat him. It was a close fight, but I'd beat him. We'd become friends. We'd gone to Thailand on the England team together and fought over in Thailand together. Then we've come to the UK. A couple of years later, we get matched together in the first round of this 8-man tournament. Yeah. And it was a complete and utter war, because obviously, I personally, when people say I could never fight a friend, I'd say fight a friend. Because you're going to push each other to the limit. You're going to like go all out. And I think if I hadn't fought him in the first round of the tournament, I probably would have gone on to win the tournament, because I would have been a lot fresher. But we absolutely went at it. Full rules, elbows included, for 3 rounds, 3-3-minute rounds. And I looked pretty fresh at the end. I didn't feel it, but I looked pretty fresh. But he came out with like numerous cuts and lumps.
That's incredible. Very rarely hear about friends, people who've known each other and have fought before. Because, you know, when I met you, you know, I was fighting in Prague, and I fought against your man Zig, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Zig. I haven't seen him in a while. We became really good friends after that. But walking into a fight, knowing the guy, being friends with him like that, and then that's really interesting. You say that it pulled something even deeper out of you because you had that trust between you. How could that be? You know, you're going into a war. Yeah,
it was strange. Like I said, it'd be like you and Zig fighting again, basically. So you've become friends after, and that's what happened. We fought each other, we didn't know each other, and then we became friends. We went over to Thailand together. But then when we fought each other, obviously he wanted to get back. He wanted to like get me back for the first win. I had no intentions of letting him, and I had a point to prove leaving my gym as well, because when I left the gym, it wasn't like people didn't usually leave the gym I'd left.
Okay.
Because the coach was like highly regarded in the Thai boxing scene, but I felt like I'd reached the ceiling there, and it was time to move on. So like there was a lot of hate towards me after leaving.
I see.
And a lot of people like, people don't leave this gym, blah blah blah. We probably won't do well. So I had a point to prove. So when I fought this lad, he was UK ranked number 6 at the time as a professional Thai boxer. I wasn't ranked at all. So we had the fight. I beat him. Then in the next round of the 8-man tournament, I fought a Scottish lad who was ranked 4th in the UK.
Nothing easy. And no easy fights.
They give it a draw after 3 rounds, so they made us go an extra round. And like in the extra round, I took over from there. So then I'd done 7 rounds. But then on the other side of the tournament, there was an Italian called Angelo Campoli, I think it was. And he'd not long fought. Have you heard of Liam Harrison?
No, I don't know.
No.
So Liam Harrison's like the biggest name out of
Oh,
the
yeah,
UK.
Liam in England. Yes. Correct. Out of England?
He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast, things like
correct.
that.
I've heard of him.
So
yeah.
this is
I watched him fight. It's good. Badass.
Not long fought Liam. So, you know, he was a big name.
Yeah.
And he got the luck of the draw. So he stopped luck of the draw. He put his guys away at the same time. He got a young kid in the first round, stopped him within the first 30 seconds. Then he got another young lad in the second round, and he stopped him in the first round. So he'd not even done a full round. I'd done 7 full rounds. Wow. So then when we went into the final, I was goosed. And I think he stopped me at like 2 minutes 30 of the round. Just exhaustion. But then, yeah, to get paid £400 from that was like a kick in the ass. But it was fun.
It's a great story, though. Yeah,
it's a heck of a story.
The fights on YouTube, and to be fair, the high quality fights spinning out, because again, I'd come onto the scene as a different style, and people hadn't seen the style before. So in the first fight, the commentator was saying how he didn't like my style. I never fought with my hands up. I was cocky with it. Okay. I'd throw spinning elbows. I'd unorthodox. So if someone throws a head kick, I'll duck underneath it. I won't block it. I'll duck underneath it. I'll give him a smile. I'll walk around the ring, have my hands down, egg him on to come and hit me.
I like it.
And he was saying how he didn't like my style because I didn't have a guard. It wasn't a traditional Thai boxing style, and I was going to get caught with an elbow. I was going to get caught X, Y, and Z. And then nearer the end of the round, the lad went to throw a left hook, and I slipped underneath it and hit him with a spinning elbow, which dropped him.
I've seen this highlight, yeah.
Yeah, and he got an 8 count from that, and then that was it. Then it was just, who's this kid? He's amazing. Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
And it just escalated from there.
And so your confidence. You talk about you're missing. You're not doing traditional. You're just dodging them. You're just doing different. Why is that? Why did you choose that style? Like, I understand that style. Why did you choose it?
Fighting wasn't my release. People fight for with purpose.
Yeah.
My purpose is I needed an escape from my reality. Even at the age, like when I started at 11 years old,
okay,
I went to a rough school, which was like a 50-50 Muslim school and English school, white school. But when I started secondary school in 2002, the year before, we had race riots in the town, and they were big in the UK.
Where you was at?
On the news.
2002.
2001, I think it was. In 2001, there was race riots in my town.
Okay.
For a couple of nights, and tensions had always been high. So when I went to secondary school, there was a lot of hatred between the two communities. So we were always fighting. We were always getting attacked. But, both sides were as bad as each other at the time.
Correct.
I'd not long lived in the area. I come from a fact, like, my mum suffered with alcoholism growing up, and my father did. And then my mum, she suffers really ill, with epilepsy, things like that.
Okay.
So
sorry to hear that.
It's always been, I needed something to find me escape.
Yes.
And fighting was my escape. And when I was in there, I used to have an out-of-body experience. People will say, they like to be in there and know that they're there, but I like to imagine, when I knew when I was going to have a good fight, because as I'm walking to the ring of the cage, if it was a good night, I'd be sat in the crowd watching myself fight. And if I was going to have a bad
outside
night,
of yourself.
Spiritual experience.
Weird experience. I don't know how it happened, but
you wouldn't try to put yourself into that state. It would just happen.
Yeah, it just happened.
Amazing.
Wow. What do you say? What do you really say to these young men that come in and just test it? Just test martial arts. What do you say to these men that you really, because if you get them locked into mixed martial arts, it really changes their life in all aspects. I know what it did for me. I know what it did for Steven. Everyone that trains it. So how do you get these young men to lock in with you? Did computer freeze? Pedro, I think we froze.
You frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There it is.
We were frozen for a second.
We were frozen over here.
There we are.
All right. I don't know if you heard what I said. Did you hear what I said?
A little bit of what do we say to the young people?
Yeah, basically, to paraphrase, you get people who come in to check it out, and how do you handle a new student? And you see potential in them, and it's going to benefit them in the long run if they stick with this, but it's going to hurt and you're going to have to come on days when you don't want to train. How do you mentor these young guys that come in?
Correct.
You just tell them the truth from the start. You know, you get these young people. The way I think training should be done is, if you treat it like another sport, if you like to play American football, you aren't just going to get to play for a good team straight away. Same with soccer. You're not going to get to play for a good team straight away. You might be able to play in the park with your friends, but the harsh reality is it's a professional sport. So you have the commercial side of a gym, and then you have the fighting aspect of a gym.
Correct.
Once you see someone who's dedicated for a certain amount of time, they're putting the work in, they're not complaining, they're getting on with it, they seem actually like they want it, then you start to integrate them into the fighting side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you slowly bring them in. You give them like little tasters. Come along to shows, come along to this session, we'll see what it's like, what the pros are training like, give them a bit of an insight. And then you've just got to be truthful with them. You can't sell them, again, I said before, one, you've got to earn your stripes, and two, you can't sell them bullshit.
Correct.
You've got to be real with them. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna want to quit. People are gonna tell you not to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna lose friends. You're gonna sacrifice time with your family, with your friends. You're gonna miss birthdays, meals, the full shebang. And you've got to make them realize that you're either 100% in or you're 100% out. And that was the problem I had as a fighter, is I wasn't 100% in. I was doing it for fun. Okay. I was training. At one point, I was ranked number 3 in the UK as a Thai boxer, and I was training 3 times a week. Wow. I wasn't running. I was eating McDonald's before fights, and I was still performing like I was. And now I reflect on it, and I think, actually, if I made an effort, I probably would have been even better.
Correct.
So you know, I don't regret what I did because I enjoyed it. But now, like, if I treated it a little bit more seriously, then God knows where I'd be right now.
That's true. Now, what's the upside when you're saying the difficult parts, right? But what's the upside of mixed martial arts? Talk about that.
It's hard to say because there's too many.
Yeah.
Let's
start with. I always say mixed martial arts is fun, even though it's hard. I don't even see it as hard. I never saw it as hard.
No, I don't see it as hard.
You mean compared to another art?
Just in anything. I thought mixed martial arts wasn't hard. It was just fun. It was just work. Everything is work. But I always saw it as fun.
Because you enjoy it. It's because you enjoy it. And if you actually reflect on what you're putting your body through, what you're putting yourself through mentally, then everything else becomes easy. Once you start to understand, this is only something I've recently learned, like, what I've actually put myself through as a fighter could have made everything else in life easier. If I'd understood what mentality it took to be a strong fighter, and I appreciated what I did, I would have had more self-confidence. Because even as a fighter, I still suffered with self-confidence.
Of course.
Everyone does.
Everyone does.
Now I don't know, because now I know I have a good identity. I don't have anything to prove to anyone. I'm only in competition with myself.
Okay.
So they're the real good things.
That's the fruits of training, is that character development, right? Where, like, exactly like you're saying, you become okay with yourself, you're compassionate with your community, and you can't substitute that. You can't fake that. That just comes from walking the path, right?
Yeah. And everything that comes at you in life is a breeze, because like no one's punching you in the face. Right. Or kicking you in the face, or trying to elbow your head off.
Yeah, exactly.
And what gym are you repping now?
I work at a gym local to me, but I only coach 1 session a week there. I work with a few specific fighters, but now I just kind of like, I've started an online fitness and nutrition program with a friend of Stafford. He was over in Prague with us.
Stafford, yeah.
So we have a couple of businesses together. So we've started that.
Tell us about a little project. What are they called? Tell us about them.
So this SL Academy, we've started the fitness and nutrition program. So we just wanted, from what we've learned as fighters, all the bad habits we've learned of cutting weight. Every fighter does yo-yo dieting, all the bad habits.
Yeah, tell me about it, man.
I personally think fighters have like eating disorders, because everyone's always
dirty secret of the industry that the macho fighters don't want to admit that they all have eating disorder. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I feel that it's easy, like a yo-yo diet, 100%. Certainly.
So all the bad habits we've learned through that, we know, like, to have a good sustainable healthy diet, there's just little simple things that you need to accomplish.
For example,
so we do that with people now. You see these people doing the yo-yo dieting, and it's like, right, let's stop doing all that stupid stuff. Let's enjoy what you eat. Let's stop calling it a diet to start with, because as soon as you make it a diet, then you've practically failed, because it's a task already.
Right.
When in reality, you've got to change your lifestyle. You've got to change the way you look at food, your relationship with food, your relationship with yourself. So we do a lot of mentality stuff with them, like making them not feel guilty if they eat a McDonald's. Like, you can have a McDonald's, but don't have a McDonald's every day. Like, how to prep your food during the week, so it's, you know, it's less of a strain when you get home after work. You're like, oh, I can't be bothered, so you order a takeaway. Just little things like that. It's just little lifestyle changes that just makes it easy.
And I gotta, now we're heading for the end of the interview, but I want to ask you, for those young men that have never, what would you say to the young men or men, adults, whoever you want to talk to, and say, if this man has never ever stepped in the gym, never been in a dojo, never been in a ring, never been in an octagon, never been punched in the face, never grappled, never been on the mats, never tried jiu-jitsu, if they've never ever tried it in their life, what would you say to those men?
You've got to do it. You've got to do it to realize what you are actually capable of. Everyone is capable of greatness. You just need to understand how to become great.
And the definition, that's a great way of saying it. Everyone's capable of greatness. And greatness is not necessarily being John Jones. Greatness is just being better than you were yesterday. That is, to me, can be greatness. You're getting better and better every day. You're getting greater and greater. That's greatness. So yeah, I do agree. Everyone should try it. It's so important. It's so important.
Yeah, well, like we said, you don't have to be a fighter.
Yeah.
To do martial arts, you don't have to be a fighter.
Right.
If you want to be a fighter, then be committed and understand it's hard. But to have that, it's crazy, because you have an ego as a fighter, but you also don't have an ego when it comes to other things. You learn how to control the ego, basically.
Correct.
Yeah, you're pressure testing it all the time.
I can walk around everywhere and just be quiet, keep myself to myself.
Correct.
Not have to feel the need to engage in things that are nothing to do with me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the things I do like that, hopefully that message spreads around to the world, because I believe everyone should learn to fight. Even just defend yourself or just practice, right? It's not like you want to, not like I ever want to fight again, but me and you, we understand how to defend ourselves. So, and it's just self-confidence, understanding it's part of being a complete man, right? So I hope everyone finds out, wants to train. What's your Instagram? What's your...
Well, we have to cover, so, as you've evolved in your fight, you took us through a bunch of your career here, your amateur career, your Thai boxing career, and...
He's with Anthony Pettis now.
Yeah, now let's talk about the APFC, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Anthony Pettis Fight Club. Tell us about your work with him.
So basically, one of the skills that I have through my years, I was a fighter until the start of the pandemic. In 2019, I made the choice to quit building.
Okay.
I come off the tools to fight full time, because a few people said to me, if you actually make an effort and do this full time, you can make it somewhere. So I'd been working roofing at the time, and I thought, I got home one day. I went to an event local to me with a guy called Kane Musa. He actually owns Bad Sport, what wearing.
Okay.
He was one of the fighters. He fights in Bellator. He was doing a speech at a local community centre for a load of young people, and we went, and it was strange. Well, not strange, but it was an eye opener. So the lads who were like 13, 14 years old come into us, and how they looked at us and how they respected us, and I realised that I was wasting my time on a building site. So I decided to quit working, go back into education. I studied youth work. So I got my qualification as a youth worker, so I can work with young people from like the ages of, going through adolescence from the ages of 10 to like 21, helping them figure out where they want to be in life. So that's my qualification. And then I was training full time, and I was wrestling with a Dagestani.
Nice. And
herniated a disc in my neck when I did it, and paralyzed myself. So I was in hospital for 10 days.
Wow.
So that was practically the end of my fight. When it could have been okay. I could have carried on if I'd done the rehab properly, but selfless as I am, as soon as I'd come out of hospital, I give myself a couple of weeks, and then I was back in the gym. I was padding people, I was working with people, helping them prepare for fights. Then I had the surgery, and I did the same things. Instead of holding pads for people, I was holding paddles. So I was still taking impact. I wasn't looking after my body, not recovering properly. And I still get twinges every now and again, which kind of like, do I want to risk it? Not really. So, you know, I've never said I'm retired, but I understand that I'll probably never fight again. Unless someone offers me $1 million, and then I might do it. You
There you go.
But
Someone offer $1
But
million.
now you move into matchmaking. You move into promoting, right? There's plenty. You have all the skills and your
matchmaking.
background.
Yeah, I've been around the sport for so long. I understand it. Managing fighters, helping them with their careers, make the right choices within the careers. And I noticed that APFC was coming over to the UK, and they was looking for a few different people for different roles. They were looking for someone to run the social media. So I dropped them a message suggesting someone that I knew, and they asked if I would be interested in doing anything. They'd spoke to a few people, and my name had popped up a few times apparently to help them out.
Nice.
And I said, look, if you need any help, I've hosted shows at this arena before. Obviously, I know the local talent. I know how to run the events. They've been successful events. So they kind of made me their guy in the UK to help them run the event. So I do all the logistics over here for them.
Oh, wow.
They get over tomorrow. Some of the team get over tomorrow. And then from Monday, we've got the rest of the week to finish boxing off the show and get everything perfect. And hopefully it's the start of like a new path.
Yeah.
Working for
That's really
as well
exciting.
as doing the other things as well.
And
Multiple
so
income.
how many fights are on this card?
I think there's about 20.
And
So
it's
there's a mixture of amateur and professional fights, some high-level professional fights. It's on UFC Fight Pass.
It's going to be on Fight Pass, and that's this Friday the 20th, right?
Friday the 20th.
October 20th. Okay.
Awesome. Well, we're excited about that. Send out your Instagram and how people can get a hold of you so I can either get coaching by you
on
or...
everything.
Go ahead.
Lofty MMA for everything.
Lofty MMA for everything.
Everything
Awesome,
through there. Coaching, mindset, and if you need a matchmaker and you're in the UK or Europe, Andrew Lofthouse.
Yeah, give me a shout.
Awesome.
Good to talk with you, brother.
Thank you
I
so
really
much,
appreciate
man.
it. I know it's late where you are. You stayed up for us. So
But people need to hear this message, especially in UK. You guys are always up and coming. We always need a bump.
Hey,
bump.
And we're up and coming. We're a big podcast that's growing here in the West Coast. We're in our lane here, doing what we do, growing and trying to grow with all these other promotions. So as you move into the next part of your career too, we'll all grow together.
Correct.
100%. You've just got to stay on with it, enjoy it.
Be
and,
consistent.
You know, if you're good at something, you'll make a living out of it. I honestly believe that.
I agree.
Beautiful.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for being with us.
Andrew.
We appreciate you. Thank you, Andrew.
Good night, brother.